Hello everybody, Ben Rogers here, the Raptors Digest. Riker, the Toronto Raptors just had their greatest series, their greatest victory in franchise history. They're going to the NBA Finals, and we have to make some predictions on this series. We have like 4 days until the game, so we have a lot of time for breakdowns and all that sort of stuff. But this is just going to be our raw predictions for this series for the Toronto Raptors versus the Golden State Warriors.
This is going to be raw, polarizing. I think we're going to get into it a little bit now in this podcast, and whatever you say, it's going to be hard to do it with a lot of conviction because this series is going to be, I think, unpredictable because the Raptors are, for the most part, written off, but we're going to have some says about that. But before we get into it, we're going through our Stance sponsorship. We have one that we need to make up for that we missed last week. So we got a couple things to rattle off really quick. One, most importantly, if we hit 10K subs, we're doing a huge, and I emphasize huge, Ben, huge giveaway of stocks. Right now we're at 9,500. If we get to 10K before this next series is over, then we're doing a huge giveaway for all the fans. This week's giveaway. We're doing one today. We'll go to somebody who creates a graphic for us for the final series, such as the Where's the Sauce T. Ross, the Don't Trust the Process segment, animations. You know what I'm talking about if you're a fan of the Raptors Digest. So create one for us and send it over. The best one, that will get this week's Stance socks. It's the Dinosaur Classic, the purple socks. We can throw them up on the screen, the picture of them. And also check out the new Stance.ca website. And finally, for the winners of last week, we said it would go to the best comment, and DeMarvelous the chosen by a landslide. Had the comment. I sent it to you, Ben. Maybe we can pull it up really quick. So he gets those OVO socks. Do you have it?
Yeah, it's up there.
Okay, so everyone is disrespecting the Raptors again by saying Warriors in 4, trending on Twitter. Let's shock the world again. Hashtag prove him. DeMarvelous the chosen. He's an OG. He's actually been around. He's been around for a long time on the Raptors Digest, so he's getting some credit here. And Ben, before we get into it, this is a long sponsorship ramble, but you have a guy for the previous week's winner.
Yeah, shout out to Own the Baller. You're getting the previous week's winner for the socks. So we're going to send all those out. DM us or comment below your email, your information. We'll read them and get that stuff to you. But Riker, we have some predictions to make on this series.
We do indeed, Ben. Do you want to start off or do you want me to start? I think you should go for it.
I'll go first. Riker, I know we have home court advantage, and it's going to be tough to win some games on the road. And I know people are writing off the Toronto Raptors, but Raps in 6 in Golden State, in Oakland, and we're going to end the Warriors streak in their arena. The last game they'll ever play in their arena will be a loss, and it will be Kawhi Leonard holding a championship trophy in Golden State.
Wow. All right. Then for me, I'm going to be that guy because my gut instinct is saying Warriors in 5. Now that's what it's been speaking to me now for this entire playoff stretch. I know, Warriors in 5, and it makes sense. I'm usually the pessimist. But a few things that is going to maybe persuade me after we're done this conversation is, if I really look at what the Warriors stretch, their playoff stretch has been so far, they lost 2 games against the Los Angeles Clippers, who are by far an inferior team to the Raptors, right? Mm-hmm. They blew a 31-point lead in one of those games. The Clippers have no superstars. They have really no crazy all-stars or anything like that. So they struggled in that series. Then they lost 2 games against the Houston Rockets, who I think are also an inferior defensive team, and they rely on really one guy and just exclusively 3-point shooting. But the most telling tale for me is that the Warriors, although they swept the Portland Trailblazers, I think the Portland Trailblazers is the weakest matchup they faced in the finals, in the playoffs so far. And every single game, the Portland had at least, I think, a 17-point lead late in the game, which the Warriors came back from. Now, the Raptors, they're better defensively, they're better offensively, they have more star power, they have more veteran experience than the Portland Trailblazers. So if they're able to sustain a lead, then it's possible they might not do as bad as everybody thinks. So I'm going to leave it to you to convince me why you think that the Raptors are going to win in 6.
Well, Riker, you have the Stephen A., the Skip Bayless-itis. People are writing off the Toronto Raptors already. You look at Twitter, everyone's saying Warriors sweep, Warriors in 5, Warriors in 4. But as you mentioned, right, the Golden State Warriors, yes, they might not have Kevin Durant. And, for people, obviously, I'm not the hugest fan of Kevin Durant. I like Steph Curry, I like Klay Thompson, I like the rest of the roster, but I'm not a big fan of Kevin Durant. But with him out, they are certainly a worse off team. They might play better offensively, but in the finals, you want as much talent as possible. And the fact that he might be hobbled or he might not play is certainly a favor for the Toronto Raptors, and obviously Boogie Cousins being out. So they're a depleted Warriors team. They're down 2 All-Stars. Now they still have 3 left, and they're still going to be a very formidable matchup, but I think the Toronto Raptors can, we have the best player in this series. I think Kawhi Leonard is proving to the NBA whether KD is healthy or not. I think Kawhi Leonard, and I've been saying this, before Kawhi Leonard was a Raptor, before he got hurt, I thought he was a better player than Kevin Durant, and, maybe that's just some some bias, but he's certainly proving my point throughout this playoff run. But I think we have the best player in the series, and I think we match up well at each position, as well as you can against the Golden State Warriors. Kyle Lowry, Steph Curry. Steph Curry tends to fade away in the finals a little bit, and Kyle Lowry has been amping up his performance as the series goes on. You'd still pick Curry, but it's. I think that's closer. They do different things. Clay and Danny Green, that would be a wash right now with the way Danny's playing, but he has set finals records in the past. But Kawhi Leonard against whoever they have coming off the bench, they have Alfonso McKinney currently starting in that position. That's going to be a complete just matchup nightmare for the Golden State Warriors. And with Kevin Durant, I still think the Raptors have an edge, but that could be debated. Pascal Siakam, he's amped up his game to a whole nother level this season. Now he's kind of tapered off while Draymond Green played well against the Portland Trailblazers, but he did struggle earlier in the postseason, and that's kind of been forgotten in a lot of people's minds, where he played so well against Portland. But the areas with the Toronto Raptors, especially if KD's healthy, the main edges that the Toronto Raptors have in the Golden State Warriors is the starting center position. Marc Gasol going up against Kevin Looney. I know Looney has been pretty solid this postseason, but Marc Gasol is an established veteran all-star. Looney hasn't really been there in terms of being a main rotation piece, in terms of being in a big stage. So I think Gasol and Ibaka can get the best of the big man in Golden State. And the bench, the way the bench has stepped up in this Eastern Conference Finals, the Golden State Warriors can't play Curry, Clay, and Draymond the whole game. And Fred VanVleet, Norman Powell, Serge coming into these games, I think they can really eat up the Golden State Warriors bench. And in the same vein that the Milwaukee Bucks starting unit was very effective against the Toronto Raptors, especially in the last 3 or 4 games, but the bench came in, and I'd argue the bench is a lot better for Milwaukee, right? They came in and they just got squashed when they were playing against a lineup with a couple of Raptor starters and those 3 bench pieces. I think the Toronto Raptors, especially if KD is not healthy, I think they could win it in 5. The reason I picked 6, because if KD,
but he's not healthy.
If KD's not healthy, I think we can win in 5.
You can't hinge your whole argument though around KD.
Yeah, so that's why I picked 6. Yeah, because if KD's healthy, I'm probably picking 7.
Look at this as if Kevin Durant will come back after Game 1. I think they're resting him because they know it's safe and that they can rest him. But as soon as the need comes back, we haven't really heard anything about his injury. But I think that the possibility is very likely that once they receive a challenge, then Kevin Durant will be inserted right back into the lineup. I agree with what you're saying about the bench, especially, and the center position. But some of the big points of concern, I think really the Bucks is not a great series to look at in terms of what the Raptors are now going to face against the Warriors. It's better to look at the 76ers matchup, because the 76ers had an entire lineup where you have to be worried about, right? With the adjustment for the Raptors was, how can you lock down one guy without opening up all the three-point shooting? That's the Bucks series, right? Yep. But it's not the case. This is much more similar to the 76ers, where if you shut down Embiid, you still have to be worried about Butler, you still have to be worried about Harris, you still have to be worried about Ben Simmons, even though he really disappointed everybody in the playoffs. But the Raptors have proven at that capacity that they're able to do that they're able to have each man lock up on man-on-man defense, that they're able to throw different defensive sets at the opposing team. The thing that I'd be concerned about, the two main things, right, to contrast the highlights that you said, or the advantages that the Raptors would have in this series, is that, one, the Toronto Raptors, they've struggled against three-point shooting, right? So they're really locking down defenders, or they're locking down the opponent that's really high in scoring. The Bucks, they lock down their three-point shooters. But same thing as the 76ers, both of the teams that they've faced so far now in the East, excluding the Orlando Magic, of course, they haven't hit their shots. And that's due to lack of experience. But the Golden State Warriors are the most proven team in maybe the history of the NBA that, regardless of the challenge thrown at them, they hit their three-point shot. And that's been the bread and butter for the Raptors in advancing from these series, is that their defense has caused so much problems for the Stars that even the role players aren't able to hit down their three-point shots. But I think it's pretty safe to say that the Golden State Warriors, regardless of what defense is thrown at them, you're going to have guys hit shots, hit difficult three-pointers even, because you have the talent of Klay Thompson, Stephen Curry, even Draymond Green playing really good this playoff so far. And the second thing, I already mentioned it, mixed into this whole three-point shooting argument, is that a lot of people are saying that the Raptors really should have lost this series after the 2 games, but due to the inexperience of the Milwaukee Bucks, the Raptors were able to come back and, dominate game 3 or, and then really get the momentum on their side. The Warriors have the most experience perhaps possible in the entire history of the NBA. They're 5 seasons in a row now in the NBA Finals, so it's going to be pretty hard to shake them. Even if the Raptors came out to a 2-0 lead, for example, to start the series, they would have equally as much chance in doing what the Raptors just did.
Yeah, no, those are very fair points, and, people are probably going to flame me in the comments for being too optimistic, but I just think, so experience, your experience point. I don't think experience is something where the more and more you get, the more valuable it becomes. I think once you witness a situation, we have a lot of guys that have been to the finals, been to the conference finals. Once you get it, you just know how to approach these games. And it doesn't, obviously you get better and your skills happen the more you play. But, experience, I think once you get there, the margin of how that differentiates you from the opponent doesn't really make that big of a gap. And as well, the Toronto Raptors, the 2 things that I'm looking at, you brought up some good points there. The 2 points that I'm looking at, I think the Toronto Raptors have the best player in this series. This is the big thing about my argument. I just think Kawhi Leonard can will his way to, as long as everyone else is playing solid. We need the role players to really play solid. Play the way they did in the last 4 games against the Milwaukee Bucks, right? If Kawhi Leonard can do the things he's been doing, not elevate his game more, not, and obviously not decrease. If he keeps playing at this level, I think he's going to be the best player in the series, and it's going to be too much for the Golden State Warriors to overcome, right? And obviously they have a lot of talent, and I think they're more well-rounded talent, but I think we have the best player, and they might have more top guys, those, as Max Kellerman likes to use, 4.5, 5-star players, but we have the best player in the series. I think all around our team just makes a bit more sense. The bench is solid, and we can kill them in the front line with Pascal Siakam and Marc Gasol. So I think our team, talent-wise, fit-wise, makes a lot of sense against the Golden State Warriors. And then, the big thing that I'm looking at in this series is, Ryker, I want to pose this question to you. Is this the best defensive team that the Golden State Warriors would have ever faced? In their past 4 years run? Maybe you could make an argument that the Grizzlies were, 3 seasons ago. But I think the Toronto Raptors have the best defense that the Golden State Warriors are going to go up against since, they had this miraculous run. So I think we can have the best shot at shutting down those three-point shooters, getting in, annoying Steph Curry, annoying Klay Thompson, because, although they've won, although they've been there with all this talented roster, when Steph Curry and Klay Thompson are put in, stressful situations, they have collapsed under pressure in the past. It's only until KD has been there to kind of carry the load when they struggle in the playoffs, and then the same thing vice versa when KD struggles, the rest of them kind of pick each other up. But I think when, if the Toronto Raptors can up the defense, show something to the Golden State Warriors they've never seen before, and the Toronto Raptors defense is capable of getting to that level. If they prove something on the defensive end and they can match up talent-wise with the Golden State Warriors, I think this could be a serious, series for the Toronto Raptors to win, and they, arguably could do this a lot easier than other people expect, from the outside looking in.
I do think that there is a more relevant series, or more, there's no extreme competitive advantage that I think that the Warriors have that traditionally, and everybody that's saying Warriors in 4, I don't really understand that much in an educated argument where that hyper confidence would come from. And of course, I'm not hedging all of my bets on what I'm sort of thinking. My gut instinct, and that's what I'm following with, is Warriors in 5. Yeah. I can see the Raptors at least winning 1 at home, but I would love to be wrong. I'll tell you that. I was right in the 76ers, and I was right in the Bucks series in predicting how many games. This one I would love to be wrong in, but I don't see it being so quick and easy of a series that, yes, the Warriors have superior three-point shooting. I think that that's a given. And of course, their experience, that's going to come into a factor, whether or not it's big or small, like you're saying, that it might not be that much of a thing. But in terms of defense, I definitely agree with what you're saying. the amount of defensive prowess on this Toronto Raptors team in terms of, past defensive player of the years, all NBA team defenses, and what they've displayed so far in this series, the Raptors are extraordinary. They're able to shut down, MVP candidates in Giannis. They're able to shut down super teams in the 76ers. They're able to take away the specialties and three-point shooters, and they're able to collapse and not play, they're able to switch. You're seeing Serge Ibaka play brilliant defense. Pascal Siakam play brilliant defense when they're switched on to little guys guarding out on the perimeter.
Yep.
All of these things are going to play really well because one of the biggest concerns for the Toronto Raptors this entire playoffs now playing against the 76ers and the Bucks was, are they going to be undersized? Right, that's what everybody said. The Bucks will dominate the Raptors because they're way bigger. But they got past these teams. Now when they're playing against the Warriors, which play small ball, you're not going to say, oh, the Raptors can't play small enough. I mean, look at how small our entire team is. So you're giving another thing that the Raptors are now going to have less of a challenge doing. I mean, this is obviously going to be the most difficult matchup that the Raptors have faced in this playoffs. But all things considered, I think things are finally coming their way in terms of what they have to face on defense, what they have to do on offense. I think that the Bucks were better defensive team than the Warriors. I think the Warriors, of all the seasons that they've been assembled as this super team, this is their least likely year to win. And just based off of the things that they've already had to overcome now in the playoffs, and like I said, they swept the Trailblazers, but it was not very convincing to me. A lot of injuries and a team that seems kind of fragmented, to be honest with you. I think the Raptors, this is their best opportunity to get a championship, whether or not they'll do that.
Yeah, unless the Warriors break up next season. And it's certainly their best opportunity so far, right? And you brought up a lot of points there, which, I agree with. I think the talent gap, because if you look at the LeBron James teams that have went against this version of the Golden State in the past, the year before with Kyrie and LeBron, they didn't have kind of the defensive prowess that the Toronto Raptors have right now. And they had a lot of close games in that series, but inevitably KD, it was their first year together. They came out and they beat the Cavs in 5, but it was a lot more competitive than last year. Last year, the Warriors looked like a juggernaut because LeBron James brought a bunch of, not nearly the talent that the Toronto Raptors have this year to the finals, and they didn't have a shot last season. They still almost won game 1. But my point is, we have the best player in this series, in my opinion, and that's certainly my opinion. That could be argued in, I'm sure people will argue that in the comment section below. But I look at Kawhi Leonard as a LeBron James type player with a supporting cast that maybe not be as good as the Golden State Warriors at all, but is comparable. The talent levels is not so skewed to the point where it's, you look at it and you say Warriors in 4, Warriors in 5, in my opinion. And then just the defense, the cohesion that this how this Raptors roster makes sense, especially on the defensive end. I think that could give an edge for this Raptors team. And then when you have the best player in a series, they just usually find a way to pull it out. And Kevin Durant, right? He's not, whether he plays or not, because, when, teams are very hush-hush in the playoffs about what injuries are really sustained. We don't really know what's happening with Kevin Durant, but the reports are saying he doesn't look good for game 1, and we're not sure what's going to happen further. But if he comes back, he's still not going to be 100%. So I think the Raptors could really get the best of, a depleted Warriors roster, and the fact that they're depleted, the fact that, the Raptors are riding such a high of momentum, the fact that, in my opinion, we have the best player in the series and one of the best defenses of all time, I have high expectations for this Raptors team.
Well, Ben, let me pose this idea. Is that every season that the Warriors have been in the finals has been against LeBron, and every team that LeBron brings is a LeBron team, right? He's the number one guy. He's the guy, if they play well, then they're going to win. He's the really the primary concern, and in a lot of instances, you could say the only concern for the defense. Now, facing him that many times, it can go in the way that the Raptors with DeMar, no offense to him, did, and that they could really never find the answer. But for the Golden State Warriors, it's the other way around. They had their loss against LeBron, and then they got his number. They figured out how to shut him down. So another interesting thing that'll happen this series is they are finally facing a team in the NBA Finals that they haven't prepared against season over season. The recipe is not shut down LeBron James and then we know we're going to win this series. It's, you have to stop Kawhi, but for the most part, the last 3 games, he's almost reached double-digit assists because everybody else is stepping up. So it's going to be a completely different game plan, and it's something that the Warriors now, they've had a lot of time, obviously, to prepare, having so many games off, but it's going to be a new challenge for them, which is something you can't say for, shockingly, the past 5 years.
Yep. Oh, yeah, 100%. And one point that a lot of people are forgetting in the media as well, the Raptors won 2 of these games against the Golden State Warriors. I know the regular season doesn't matter, but the Warriors came out to play both of those games. They knew they usually come out to play against the top dogs in the league, and they always played against the Cavs, they always played against the Celtics. They came out to play in those 2 games, and the Raptors, even one without Kawhi Leonard, got the Golden State Warriors. I'm sure that's a confidence thing going into this series. The Raptors know they can beat them. They have players that have been here. Obviously the Warriors, just because they are the champions, they've won the past few years, they're the favorites. They're going to be the favorites, but I can see the Toronto Raptors dethroning the kings of the NBA.
I'd love to see it, Ben. I'd love to see it.
Yeah.
We'll have the full breakdown of the stats, what the matchups are to expect, all that. We have a lot of days now until Thursday. I'm excited for that to come up, but we're going to have a lot of different angles of looking at what this upcoming series will look like that I'm sure we'll be able to break down a little bit more conclusively what we think the outcome of each game will be, what the outcome of the series will be. Our initial predictions are obviously very different right now, but I'd love to be swung over to your side. Right now I don't see it, but... there's a lot of good thoughts to be put in there that the Raptors could do it.
In 6. Raps in 6 right here.
Love it.
Anyways, you're the best for making this far. Check out the Twitter, the Instagram, all that cool stuff. As Ryker mentioned, we got a lot of cool Stance stuff coming. So, shout out to Stance. They're the best sock company out there. Buy their socks, and certainly, make an edit for us. Make a segment piece. We wanna get that if you want some cool socks. Ryker, any last words?
That's it for me, Ben. Cheers.